All right, so today we're going to be like taking a deep dive, back into biology class,
Oh, fun.
right? But like a way more exciting version.
Okay.
We're going to be exploring muscles,
Yeah.
bones, and skin.
The foundational stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Really the foundation of our, physical selves.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're going to go beyond just like the textbook basics.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah. Uncover some surprising facts and details that'll make you look at your own body in like a totally new light.
Cool.
So to kick things off, let's start with muscles,
Right.
the movers and shakers of our bodies,
Love it. Yeah.
things that make us go.
Exactly. And I remember, from back in the day learning about the different types of muscle tissue, like skeletal, cardiac, smooth.
Right.
Can you remind us, what makes them all work and what's the key difference between them?
Yeah. So you hit it on the head. There are those three main types.
Okay.
And even though they have their own, specialized roles, they all operate on this one fundamental principle. Yeah.
Which is that they generate force only through contraction.
Oh, interesting.
So muscles can only pull, they can't push.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
So like, even when I'm pushing a door open, my muscles are actually pulling.
They are.
That seems very counterintuitive.
I know, right? It's one of those things that you don't really think about until somebody points it out to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, think about it like this.
Okay.
Imagine you have a rope tied to something.
Okay.
You can pull that rope to bring the object closer to you.
Right.
But you can't use the rope alone to push the object away.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So muscles kind of work in a similar way.
Okay.
By shortening or contracting to create that force.
Okay, that's making sense.
Good.
But then, so if muscles can only contract, how do we get all this incredible range of motion that we have?
Yeah.
Like bending our arms, walking, turning our heads, all that.
Well, that's where the teamwork comes in.
Oh, okay.
So muscles often work in pairs or groups.
Okay.
With one muscle contracting while its partner relaxes. And this creates that kind of push and pull effect that we're talking about.
Okay.
And it allows for smoother, more controlled movements in every direction.
So it's like this perfectly coordinated dance between these opposing muscles.
It is. It totally is. And a great example of this is the biceps and triceps in your arms.
Okay, the classic.
Yeah. So when you want to bend your elbow, your bicep muscle contracts, which pulls on your forearm bones, but at the same time, your tricep muscle on the back of your arm, that relaxes to allow for that bending motion.
So to straighten it, the roles just reverse.
Exactly.
The triceps contract and the biceps relax.
You got it.
It's like they're having this constant conversation back and forth.
Totally. They're working together all the time.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And, muscles are responsible for so much more than just movement.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they also play a huge role in stability.
Okay.
Helping us to maintain our posture and balance.
Oh, wow.
And they're involved in things like transporting substances throughout the body, like helping blood circulate.
Wow.
Food move through the digestive system.
So they really are like the ultimate multitaskers in our bodies.
They really are.
It's amazing how much they do.
Totally.
So let's focus a little bit on skeletal muscle.
All right.
Because that's the type of muscle we can consciously control.
Exactly.
It's the one that we use for all of our voluntary movements.
Yeah.
So like from lifting weights to even typing on my keyboard right now, that's all skeletal muscle.
It is.
Wow. And here's a kind of question for you.
Okay.
Skeletal muscles use leverage, right, to create that movement.
They do.
But they often require more force than the actual weight they're lifting.
That's right.
Why is that?
Right?
Like, why would our bodies be designed that way? It seems inefficient.
Yeah, it might seem inefficient at first glance.
Yeah.
But it's actually a really brilliant adaptation for efficiency and for compactness.
Okay.
Because by using these leverage systems, our muscles can generate a lot of power while staying relatively small.
Oh, okay.
And close to our bones.
So that's why we're not like walking around looking like the Hulk.
Exactly.
Okay.
It allows for that greater range of motion.
Okay, that makes sense.
Good.
So we've got these muscles pulling on our bones, creating movement. But what is happening on like the microscopic level?
Yeah.
How does a muscle actually contract?
Well, for that, we need to take a closer look at something called a sarcomere.
Okay.
Which is the tiny power unit of a muscle.
So each muscle is made up of tons of these little sarcomeres.
Exactly.
All working together.
Yep. And when a muscle contracts, all those sarcomeres shorten simultaneously.
Okay.
to generate the force needed to pull on the tendons which are attached to your bones.
Okay.
Now, how this happens can get a little complicated.
Yeah.
But the key players are these two proteins called actin and myosin.
Okay, I remember those.
Yeah, and they form these overlapping filaments within the sarcomere.
Okay.
And when they slide past each other, the muscle fiber shortens.
So it's like a microscopic tug of war.
It really is. It's this amazing little dance happening inside your muscles.
Wow. So what triggers that tug of war?
Calcium.
Calcium.
Calcium is key here.
Okay.
So it acts as a signal binding to specific proteins within the sarcomere and allowing those actin and myosin filaments to interact.
So no calcium, no contraction.
Pretty much calcium is like the key that unlocks the muscle's power.
Wow.
And to make sure that that calcium signal gets to every corner of the muscle fiber quickly, we have these structures called T-tubules.
Okay.
Kind of think of them as like a rapid transit system within the muscle.
Oh, wow.
Carrying that signal for contraction deep into the muscle fiber.
It really is like a perfectly choreographed dance of molecules and signals.
It is. It's mind-blowing when you really think about it.
Yeah. And speaking of choreography, how do our muscles manage to move so smoothly?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like all the muscle fibers are firing at once.
Right. It's not like we're robots.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so that's where motor units come in. So not all muscle fibers are activated at the same time.
Okay.
They're organized into these groups called motor units.
Okay.
And those units are recruited in a very coordinated way to produce smooth and controlled movements.
So like a team of tiny workers all pulling their weight at the right time.
Exactly.
Wow. And does the size of a motor unit like depend on the muscle's function?
It does.
Okay.
So small motor units with just a few muscle fibers.
Okay.
They're responsible for like your fine motor control, like the delicate movements of your finger.
That's what's allowing me to like play the piano or thread a needle.
Exactly.
Okay.
Whereas larger motor units with many muscle fibers, those are the ones we use for more powerful movements.
Okay.
Like lifting heavy objects or sprinting.
Oh, okay. So it's all about like matching the size of the motor unit to the task.
Exactly. And there are different types of muscle fibers within those motor units, too.
Oh, right. I remember.
Each with its own unique characteristics.
Yeah, like the slow twitch and fast twitch fibers, right?
Yeah, you got it.
I think I remember this from gym class.
Yeah, so slow twitch fibers are all about endurance.
Okay.
They contract slowly, but they can keep going for a long time without getting tired.
Okay.
And they're packed with myoglobin, which is what gives them that kind of reddish color and helps them efficiently use oxygen for energy.
So marathon runners, they rely heavily on these slow twitch fibers.
Exactly. They're the endurance kings and queens.
Okay.
And then you've got your fast twitch fibers, which are kind of the powerhouses.
Okay.
They contract really quickly and forcefully.
Okay.
But they do fatigue a lot easier.
Okay.
So they're great for like short bursts of intense activity, like sprinting or weightlifting.
That's why sprinters have such bulky leg muscles, right?
Exactly. They're packed with those fast twitch fibers.
Wow. And one more question about muscles.
Okay.
When you build muscle, are you actually creating new muscle cells?
That's a great question. And actually, no, you're not.
Oh, so you're just making the existing cells bigger.
Exactly. It's called hypertrophy.
Okay.
And it's the result of those muscle fibers getting bigger and stronger in response to your training.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So all those hours at the gym, you're basically just making your muscle cells swell up.
That's fascinating.
So our muscles are these really adaptable, dynamic powerhouses.
Yeah.
They're constantly responding to the demands that we place on them.
I really am starting to see my body in like a whole new light.
Awesome.
So now that we've explored this really amazing world of muscles, are you ready to move on to the framework that supports them?
I am. Let's talk bones.
All right, let's do it. So we've got these muscles, pulling and contracting, making us move.
Right.
But what about the bones that they're attached to?
Yeah.
I always kind of thought of bones as being pretty static, like the scaffolding of a building,
Right.
But I'm sensing that there's a lot more to them.
Oh, there is so much more to bones than meets the eye.
Okay, so they're not just these inert, lifeless structures.
Not at all. They're living dynamic tissues.
Oh, wow.
They're constantly remodeling and adapting to what we demand of them.
So they're kind of like a bustling city then.
I like that analogy.
All these different, types of cells working together.
Yeah, you've got your osteoblasts, which are like the construction workers building that new bone matrix.
Okay.
And then you've got your osteocytes, which are the mature bone cells that live within the matrix, just keeping everything in shape.
Right.
And then finally, you have your osteoclasts, which are like the demolition crew.
Okay.
breaking down old bone to release minerals back into the bloodstream.
So it's like this constant cycle of building and breaking down.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's happening all within our bones.
all the time.
So what are the main functions then of this like bone city?
Well, you're right that they provide support,
Okay.
acting as that framework for our bodies, protecting our vital organs.
Right.
And they're obviously crucial for movement.
Mm-hmm.
Providing those attachment points for the muscles acting as levers to amplify the force that they generate.
Okay.
But they also play a vital role in mineral storage,
Okay.
particularly calcium and phosphate,
Right.
which are essential for all sorts of bodily functions.
So our bones are like our calcium bank.
Exactly. They
Right.
store it and they release it as needed to maintain just the right levels in our blood.
Okay.
And that's crucial for things like nerve function,
Okay.
muscle contraction, even blood clotting.
Wow. I never realized how important our bones are for regulating those minerals.
Yeah, and that's not all.
What else?
Bones are also involved in blood cell production.
Oh, wow.
So deep inside some of our bones, in the bone marrow,
Okay.
there's a process called hemopoiesis,
Hemopoiesis. Okay.
where stem cells differentiate and mature into red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets.
So our bones are literally creating the cells that carry oxygen throughout our bodies
Exactly.
and fight off infections.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
It is a mouthful, that word.
Yeah.
But that is super cool.
So it just goes to show you how multi-talented bones really are.
Yeah.
Now let's take a closer look at the structure of like a typical long bone,
Okay.
like the ones we have in our arms and legs.
I remember learning about the different parts, but a little refresher would be great.
All right, so you've got the diaphysis, which is that long central shaft of the bone.
Okay.
It's mostly composed of compact bone,
Okay.
which is very dense and strong.
Makes sense.
And then you have the epiphyses,
Okay.
which are the rounded ends of the bone.
Okay.
And they're also made of compact bone,
Uh-huh.
but they have a layer of spongy bone underneath.
Oh, okay. So like a different type.
Yeah, it's less dense,
Okay.
has more of a honeycomb-like structure,
Okay.
which makes it lighter and more flexible.
So it's like this clever combo of strength and flexibility depending on where it's needed in the bone.
Exactly. And then in growing children,
Hmm.
there's a special area of cartilage
Okay.
between the diaphysis and the epiphysis
Yeah.
called the epiphyseal plate. Okay.
Or the growth plate.
Oh, right.
And that's where the bone growth happens.
So that's why kids' bones break more easily.
Yeah, they're still growing and they haven't fully hardened.
Makes sense.
Now let's zoom in on the compact bone for a minute.
Okay.
It has this incredibly intricate and organized structure
Okay.
designed to withstand a lot of force.
Uh-huh.
So imagine these tiny tunnels called haversian canals
Okay.
running through the bone, carrying blood vessels and nerves.
So like a network of tunnels and roads for transportation.
Exactly.
Wow.
And those canals are surrounded by these concentric rings of bone matrix
Oh, okay.
called lamellae,
Lamellae.
which gives it a layered appearance,
Okay.
almost like the rings of a tree trunk.
That's a good visual.
Yeah, and within those layers you have the osteocytes
Uh-huh.
living in little spaces called lacunae,
Okay.
and they communicate with each other and exchange nutrients
Okay.
through these tiny channels called canaliculi. Wow, so even something as solid as bone has this really intricate network of cells and channels.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
And this whole complex structure is what allows compact bone to be both strong and lightweight,
Okay.
which is essential for moving efficiently.
My mind is blown.
Good. I like blowing minds.
Bones are so much more than just a structural support.
They are. They're amazing.
So are you ready to move on then to the fascinating world of our outer layer?
Yes. Let's talk skin.
Our incredible skin. Let's do it. So we've explored muscles and we've explored bones.
Right. These amazing inner workings.
Yeah. But there's one more key player in all of this, our skin.
Yes.
It's easy to take it for granted.
Totally.
It's our largest organ after all.
It is.
And it plays such a vital role in protecting us and just, interacting with the world.
Absolutely. Our first line of defense against the environment.
Right, exactly.
Protecting us from all that bacteria, viruses, UV radiation.
And even just physical damage, too.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
helps regulate our body temperature.
Yeah. It lets us sweat when we're hot, conserve heat when we're cold.
And it's packed with all those sensory receptors,
Yes.
giving us our sense of touch, pressure, temperature, pain.
All of those things.
It's pretty amazing to think that something as, seemingly simple as skin
Yeah.
is actually this complex, multi-layered organ.
It's really incredible when you think about it.
Yeah, with so many important functions.
It is.
So to really appreciate how skin does all of this,
Yeah.
we need to take a closer look at its structure.
Let's do it.
So it's made up of two main layers, right? The epidermis and the dermis.
Exactly.
Remember those terms.
Good.
But remind me, what's the difference?
Okay, so think of the epidermis as the outer protective shell.
Okay.
It's made up of epithelial tissue.
Okay.
And it's constantly renewing itself.
Oh, so that's why we have dust.
Yeah, that's a lot of what dust is.
It's kind of gross, but also fascinating.
I know. It's like we're constantly shedding.
Right. Our skin is always renewing.
All the time, yeah.
So within the epidermis, we have different types of cells, right?
We do.
Each with their own job.
Yeah.
So like the keratinocytes.
Yes, the tough guys.
They're filled with that keratin protein.
Right, which helps waterproof the skin and make it strong and durable.
So that's what gives our skin that like tough outer layer.
Exactly. It's our armor.
Wow. Okay. And then we have melanocytes.
Yes, those are the pigment producers.
Okay. So they produce melanin.
The pigment that gives our skin its color.
So people with darker skin, they just have more melanin.
That's right.
To protect them from the sun.
Exactly. And the amount of melanin that our skin produces can also change.
Oh, really?
In response to sun exposure.
So that's why we tan.
Exactly. It's like our skin's way of adapting.
Wow, that's so cool.
It's pretty neat.
And then what about Langerhans cells?
Oh, those are part of the immune system.
Okay.
Kind of like the surveillance team.
Okay.
Hanging on the epidermis, keeping an eye out for any invaders.
Like bacteria?
Bacteria, viruses, anything that might try to get in.
So it's like our own personal bodyguard.
Exactly. They're always on the lookout.
That's amazing.
So the epidermis is like the front line.
Okay, what about the dermis? What's going on under there?
Okay, so the dermis, that's the deeper layer.
Okay.
That's where all the action is.
Okay.
You've got your blood vessels, your nerves, glands, hair follicles.
Wow.
It's also packed with collagen and elastin fibers.
Oh, okay. So those are what give our skin the strength and the elasticity?
Exactly. So when we talk about wrinkles and sagging,
Yeah.
that's because the collagen and elastin in the dermis are breaking down.
Oh, as we age.
Yeah, it's part of life.
Okay.
But the dermis also plays a key role in regulating our body temperature.
Okay.
The blood vessels in the dermis,
Uh-huh.
they can dilate to release heat when we're hot or constrict to conserve heat when we're cold.
Oh, that's why our skin gets all flushed.
Exactly.
We're hot.
Yep, and pale when we're cold.
Okay, and then under the dermis, there's another layer, right?
Right, the subcutaneous layer.
The subcutaneous layer or the hypodermis?
Or the hypodermis, yes.
So many names.
Well, I know, right? Anatomy loves its names.
Okay, so what's that all about?
So that layer is mainly composed of fat and connective tissue.
Okay.
It helps insulate our bodies,
Okay.
protect our internal organs,
Okay.
and store energy.
So it's like a cushion.
Yeah, it's a cushion and an energy reserve.
Wow. And fun fact is that the distribution of the fat in the hypodermis is what gives us our unique shapes and contours.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's not just our bones that influence our shape.
Right. It's also the fat under our skin.
It all works together.
So before we wrap up our deep dive into skin,
Okay.
we should touch on the integumentary system.
Yes. Good point.
What does that even mean?
Basically, it's a fancy way of saying skin plus all of its accessories.
Okay, so hair, nails, glands.
Yeah. The whole package deal.
Okay, fun fact time.
All right. Hit me.
Tell me something cool about these accessories.
Okay. Well, for starters, hair and nails are actually made of the same protein as our skin.
Keratin.
Keratin, exactly.
Okay.
So the hair follicles in the dermis, they produce the hair,
Right.
which grows up through the epidermis.
Oh, yeah.
And nails. Those are essentially just hardened plates of keratin.
Okay, so they're all about protection.
They are. They're like our little shields.
So what kinds of glands do we have in our skin?
Well, we've got sweat glands, of course.
Right, to cool us down.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then we have sebaceous glands,
Okay.
which produce sebum.
Sebum, okay.
It's an oily substance that helps moisturize the skin.
Keeps everything nice and smooth.
Yeah. And then we have apocrine glands.
Okay, I've never heard of those.
Yeah, those are mainly found in our armpits and groin area.
Okay.
They produce a thicker, more odorous sweat.
So that's what contributes to body odor.
Yeah, it's all thanks to those apocrine glands.
Interesting.
And fun fact,
Hit me.
those tiny muscles attached to our hair follicles,
Okay.
the erector pili muscles,
Okay.
those are what make our hair stand on end.
Oh, when we get goosebumps?
Goosebumps, exactly.
So it's not just a reaction to cold.
Right, it's also triggered by strong emotions,
Oh, wow.
like fear or excitement.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of a remnant of a time when our ancestors had a lot more body hair.
Oh.
And raising those hairs would make them look bigger.
Two predators.
Exactly, more intimidating.
Wow, so goosebumps have like a primal history.
They do, they're pretty cool.
That's amazing. I had no idea.
See, there's always more to learn.
So much going on beneath the surface of our skin.
There really is.
It's all working to keep us protected and regulated.
exactly keeping us going.
Wow. I am truly amazed by the complexity of skin.
Me too.
It's like this dynamic living armor.
It is. It's constantly adapting and responding.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive.
It does.
Into muscles, bones, and skin.
3 amazing systems.
I feel like I have a whole new appreciation for these amazing systems that make up my body.
That's awesome.
It's like a crash course in human biology, but so much more engaging.
Yeah, way more fun than a textbook.
Definitely.
Well, we're glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm feeling inspired to keep my muscles moving, my bones strong, and keep learning about my body.
That's the spirit.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of muscles, bones, and skin.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time, keep those brains buzzing and those bodies moving.